Hello, I'm Sharon Ross with the Capital City Arts Initiative based in Carson City, Nevada. We are here at our Courthouse Gallery with Emily Najera and her exhibition, Nevada Roadsides, Northern Roots. And we get to talk to Emily right now. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you.
So give us some of your history as an artist. Have you always been in Northern Nevada?
I have not always been in Northern Nevada. I relocated here in 2009 and have lived in between Reno and Michigan, various places within Michigan, which is where I'm originally from. And I really got into photography early on in high school. I want to say is when I first started taking art classes and really fell in love with the medium itself and with the darkroom and doing film. My mom bought me my first camera, which was a Vivitar 35 millimeter, and I loved it, and I used that all through high school and into college. And then she bought me my second camera, which was a Canon, and I just, I always had the cameras with me, and I was always photographing, and just basically have never stopped.
Yeah. Good. We're glad.
Yeah.
Elisa Barber wrote a wonderful essay for your exhibition, and you refer to it as, she quotes you as calling yourself a visual storyteller. So tell us more.
Sure. I think a lot of photographers refer to themselves as storytellers. I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, a photograph can say 1,000 words, which is true, but you really have to know what those words are and how to read a photograph. And when I was teaching, I used to talk to my students a lot about how to read a photograph and how to really look at it from top to bottom and from left to right, to look for symbolism, to pay attention to the colors, to the light, to the time of day. And all of that is very important to me as a photographer. I photograph at a very specific time of day, typically in the morning or in the evening after the sun has gone down. And it's important to me to get a little bit of blue in the sky as well. And I do that with the intention of making these everyday places feel unique and in a way feel really beautiful because they're beautiful to me and they are to a lot of people as well. This photograph behind me is taken in Hazen, Nevada, which is a really small space along Highway 50 in between Reno and Fernley. And what's really wonderful about this photograph, and I know so many Nevada photographers and artists have documented it over the years, is it is on the National Register of Historic Places, although it's not the original market that was there. The original market, I believe, was demolished when they were working on the US Route 50. But what's really wonderful and what I love about this photograph is sort of the deteriorating paint, the gas pumps in the foreground that you can tell are also deteriorating. They're sort of standing still within time though. I photographed this very early in the morning, right as the sun was coming up, and you can see the warm glow of the sun juxtaposed against the rich Nevada blue sky. And it's just a really great representation of the type of roadsides that I'm typically attracted to as I'm photographing along different routes throughout Nevada.
Emily, you have more historic buildings here. Tell us about these.
Sure. These two photographs were taken in Ely, Nevada, which is along US Route 50. What I really love about these two buildings is their history, of course. They're just a really great snapshot in Nevada's history as well. Ely was known as a railroad town, and it brought people across Nevada, but it was also a town that was rich in mining history as well. When you go to Ely, you'll find it sort of stopped in time a little bit. The main street has just a variety of different buildings, which always stand out to me, and I sort of imagine all of the people who have come and gone in those spaces over the years. So this first photograph is a morning image, and it showcases an old restaurant and casino. It was not operating when I was there photographing it. You can see sort of deteriorating paint and signage, which is something that I really love about the buildings that I photograph, is the unique signage. This other photograph here on the left is actually one of my favorite photographs in the exhibition that I've taken recently, and it's a streetscape. After you've really gone through downtown Ely and you're sort of continuing on that route, if you look back, this is sort of the route that you would see. This is what I would call twilight, which is when I make a lot of my images. And so the sun has gone down and the sky is really a rich blue, and oftentimes you'll get a little hint of purple. And then you can see some of the lights through the winding road, and you can see different signs for the motels and the different businesses. And to me, it just really encapsulates the moment of being on the road, traveling through these different towns, and really thinking about Nevada's rich history.
Your exhibition title, Nevada Roadsides, tells us that you have a preference for roads and streets as part of your stories. The roads imply human presence, but none of your photographs include people.
That's right. I've been photographing buildings, neighborhoods, streets, roads since I started photography, when I was a teenager. And I typically have shied away from photographing people within my personal artwork. I just really have a passion for photographing the landscape in itself and the architecture. The work is often about people and how we interact with these spaces, whether we're in a car, how we may be traveling, or how we're experiencing the different buildings. And I really just want to focus in on those landscapes and on those architectural settings versus focusing in on the people themselves. So many of the places that I photograph, you could say they're in sometimes a state of flux, where maybe they're going through revitalization or they might be about to be demolished. And so I really just want to capture that moment, kind of a moment in time, without a focus necessarily on those people.
Emily, who are your inspirations from art history and your contemporary inspirations?
Sure. I love photography. I've always loved photography since the moment I started taking pictures and learning about photography. There's just so many artists who do this style of imagery and this genre of Americana, photographing roadsides, photographing streets, urban landscapes. In no particular order, I guess I'll start with Bernice Abbott. She was a photographer in the 1920s and 30s who was documenting a rapidly changing New York City. One of her biggest bodies of work was called Changing New York, and she was photographing, just after the turn of the century, really, in the skyscrapers that were popping up everywhere, juxtaposed with old tenement buildings, carriage houses, things like that. And she was really just capturing these moments in time. She knew that these buildings weren't going to be around forever, and they weren't. And so her images really became this powerful anthology of changing times in New York City. Her images were all black and white, and they were such an inspiration to me. In formal photography, I think I would describe myself as a formal photographer. Symmetry, lines, alignment is all very important to me, and it was very important to her as well. So when you look at the image, you feel like you're standing there instead of looking at a photograph of a place. Stephen Shore is a contemporary color photographer from the 60s, and he was absolutely an inspiration in photographing kind of everyday, banal landscapes, or you could even say boring landscapes, which is the everyday. It's photographing gas stations and photographing grocery stores and laundromats, and those are places that I am absolutely enthralled by and want to photograph and continue to photograph. His color work is widely recognized as being, some of the most prominent in early color photography and really bridging the gap to make color photography fine art. And then an artist who's really working still today is Camilo Jose Vergara, who is an artist who documents changing landscapes in urban areas like New York City, Harlem, Detroit, Chicago, Gary, Indiana. And he's photographing the same place over decades. So he's going to the same house and he's photographing it, every 2 to 5 years. So you can really see the rapid changes within those landscapes. And in a place like Detroit, which I grew up not far from there, and I have some work that looks at different neighborhoods within Detroit, he's photographing there too, and he's showing the houses, the mansions in particular, in a neighborhood called Brush Park, which is where I also have a body of work, and you can really see them in a state of decay, and then you can see the revitalization, which is really wonderful. So those are 3 artists, I would say, that have influenced my work, continue to influence my work today.
Emily, you've mentioned that you've lived in the upper Midwest, Michigan, and in northern Nevada, so how has the high desert impacted your art?
I've photographed the same types of places here in Nevada that I photographed when I lived in Michigan, and when I go back to Michigan, I still photograph, roadside attractions, neighborhoods, stores, just the everyday types of buildings that we drive past. And so that hasn't necessarily changed. I'm more influenced here, I think, by the railroads, thinking about how people have traveled across the states. You have a lot of that in Michigan, of course, as well, but I don't know, I look at it a little bit differently out here in Nevada. I'm obviously inspired by the rich neon history in Nevada, and that is something that is a thread throughout all of the work. So many local Nevadans and artists are also very much inspired by Nevada's neon history and the signage and the casinos and the motels, and so I think I've focused a little bit on that within my work as I've found my roots here as well, as looking at those buildings and those locations.
Nevada skies.
The Nevada skies, the rich blue and the saturation you can see in the work as you look at this body of work, especially in the morning images. That rich blue is just, it's so prominent here. And it's hard to photograph at times because I feel like the blue changes throughout the day. Sometimes there's like a purpley tint to it, and sometimes there's a warmer tint to it. But it is powerful, and it is sometimes blinding. But I think it's so Nevada. That blue is so Nevada. And it really, I think, pinpoints that the work is made here for me. And so many people have said to me, you know, I've been there. I remember that. I can picture as if I'm standing there. And I think so much of that is because of the sky.
Okay, go for it. Emily, what's next for your art?
The goal is to continue building this project. So I want to get back out on the road and get back to Austin and Eureka and Ely and really continue exploring the road and making as many more images as possible. All of those towns are kind of always changing, and I'm interested to see what the future looks like. Hopefully the book is the goal, and then also revisiting my Reno work. You know, I'm always documenting and photographing here in Reno, Nevada, and really looking at the changing landscapes there and how downtown is really shifting and revitalizing. And so I'll continue both bodies of work, and hopefully we'll have a book in the future.
In addition to presenting Emily's photographs, CCAI commissioned Alicia Barber to write an essay about the work and to interview Emily. You can pick up a copy of the essay, it's right here, in the gallery, or you can read it online at our website, which is ccainv.org. So when you go to the homepage, click on essays. Emily, thank you for sharing your art with CCAI in Carson City. And thank you to the courthouse for the wonderful space. This has been wonderful, a wonderful exhibition.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have my work here, and I just want to thank everyone for their support.
You can follow the Arts Initiative, as I mentioned, on our website and on Facebook and Instagram. You can come. We have 4 galleries in Carson City, all with free parking, plenty of free parking. You can watch more exhibition videos on our YouTube channel. Look for Capital City Arts Initiative, and our generous funders will be listed on the following slide. You can also join CCAI and help support the honoraria we give our artists. So we appreciate all of you, and thank you for watching.